My name is Michael, and this story isn't about forgiveness. It's about everything that comes before it, about what happens when you love someone so deeply that you forget to love yourself. It's about a cut on the body, and another one, deeper, that no one could see. But before the hospital, before anesthesia, before betrayal, there were just two brothers, two boys who shared the same roof, the same last name, and maybe the same fate. I was born first, and I've always been the kind of child adults call too mature for his age, quiet, observant, the kind who learns more from other people's silence than from his own words. Daniel came 2 years later, and with him came chaos. He was light, noise, easy smiles, the kid who scraped his knees, jumping off the roof and laughed with dirt on his face, the one who broke things and apologized with a crayon drawing and chocolate-stained fingers. And me? I was the one who cleaned up after him. From an early age, I felt like the world forgave him more easily, like he was born with a glow that made people love him before he even deserved it. Me? I had to earn everything, even affection. Our mom was a seamstress. She worked from home, that old machine rattling the kitchen table. Our days were simple: school, lunches of rice and eggs, a tiny black and white TV on low volume so it wouldn't bother her stitching. She loved us, each in her own way, but it was with Daniel that she laughed louder. With him, the hugs lasted longer. And I understood that early on, but I never said a word. Instead, I chose to be useful. Good grades, washed the dishes without asking, solved the problems Daniel created when he'd disappear for hours with no explanation. I was always the responsible brother, and that became a label, an invisible uniform I put on and never took off. Daniel was the opposite. He failed 2 years in school, changed friends like changing shirts. He could draw, write poems, make music, but never finished anything. He was talented, he was intense, but he was like fire, warm and dangerous. I admired that, his freedom, but I also feared it, because his freedom always left someone else burned. Adolescence was the beginning of our real separation. I was studying medicine. He was always starting something new: a band, an acting course, a video channel, a tattoo on his arm he designed himself. We spoke less, but every time he came back, it was like he never left. Daniel had that power to make you forget time, pain, resentment, until our mother got sick, and everything changed. She started forgetting things. At first, it was just salt in the rice, then the neighbors' names. Later, the way back from the store, even our birthdays. At first we laughed. Daniel joked, "Guess Mom's brain retired early." But the laughter didn't last. Then came the diagnosis: Alzheimer's, late onset, and with it, the decline. The strong woman who once sewed until 3 a.m. now mistook the sofa for her bed, burned the beans, put the keys in the refrigerator. I dropped everything to care for her, put college on hold, moved back home. Daniel didn't. He said it was too hard to see her like that he couldn't handle the pain, that he wanted to remember her as she used to be. And then he vanished for months. No warning, no calls, no visits, just silence. Taking care of her was the most painful and sacred thing I've ever done. Changed her diapers, gave her baths, spoke to her like she still understood, even when she called me sir instead of son. I started sleeping with the bedroom door open, afraid she'd wander off in the night. Lived with guilt, with rage, with too much love and too little patience. But I stayed. I never left. When she passed, Daniel showed up at the funeral. Long hair, unshaven, wrinkled clothes. She looked beautiful, didn't she? I didn't respond. He hugged me like nothing had happened. Thanks for taking care of her. And I said nothing. Because part of me still wanted that hug. Part of me still wanted him back. But deep inside, something cracked between us. And that crack never healed. After that, we barely saw each other. Birthdays, family weddings, a few texts during the holidays. Each of us went our own way. Until that damn day. The phone call, the doctor, the diagnosis. Daniel was sick. I was leaving work when I got the call. Unknown number. Is this Michael? Yes. This is from the hospital. Your brother Daniel was admitted last night. We're trying to reach family. My chest froze. It had been months since I'd heard his name, and now a doctor was speaking of him, like a statistic. I rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, he looked pale, thinner, dark circles under his eyes, sweating, disoriented. Hey, bro. Michael. He tried to smile, too weak to hold it. The doctor explained, a urinary infection that progressed too fast. By the time he got there, one kidney was already gone. The other on the edge of failure. He'll need immediate dialysis, but ideally, a transplant. I sat down right there, head in my hands, trying to make sense of how someone so full of life could be dying on the inside. That night, I went home and sat at our old kitchen table, the same one where our mother used to sew, stared at nothing, and thought, I'm all he has left. No father, no mother, no other siblings, just me and him. Despite the distance, despite the resentment, despite the abandonment, he was my brother. I returned the next day, got tested. I was a match. The doctor looked me in the eyes. You understand what this means, right? You'll live with only one kidney. It's a major surgery, long recovery. I nodded, because in my heart, the decision was already made. I told Daniel 2 days later. He cried. For real. Not the theatrical tears he sometimes used to escape situations. These were heavy. You'd really do this for me? Without hesitation. He held my hand. You're all I've got. That night he showed me old videos on his phone. Clips of us, a backyard race, a birthday party, both of us, frosting on our faces, hugging. And he said, I miss us. I answered, we're still here. But deep down, I didn't know that we had already died. The physical pain faded. One day, I woke up and realized I could get out of bed without feeling like my body had been torn open. I could walk to the kitchen without bending over. I could shower without having to sit on the floor. But another pain was starting to grow. The pain of absence, the kind that doesn't live in the body, the kind no scan will ever detect, the kind that appears when you realize someone took your trust and threw it away. They told me post-op recovery would be hard, but no one told me that the emotional emptiness left by an absent brother would be worse than any scar. I barely slept, woke up at 3 a.m. with that sense that something was missing. And it was. His silence was deafening. Not because of the lack of words, but because it screamed everything he didn't have the courage to say. In the first month, I still hoped he'd come back, show up at my door, no explanations, no rehearsed apologies, just a look, just a, I messed up. But nothing. His life went on, while mine felt stuck in that hospital bed, on that cold operating table, in that morning when he said I was all he had. With time, I began to reflect more coldly. I remembered things I had once brushed aside. How many times I forgave him without him even asking. How often I was the one chasing after him. How he had grown used to that. Used to me being the anchor, the structure, the guarantee that no matter what happened, I'd be there. And maybe that was my mistake. I'd stare at myself in the mirror, lifting my shirt to see the scar. It was thin, but long, still tender, and it whispered, "You trusted." Slowly, the pain became bitterness, and the bitterness became rage. Not the explosive kind, but cold, quiet. I began imagining what would have happened if I'd said no, if I had protected myself, if I had chosen me for once. But then I remembered. He would have died. And as much rage as I felt, I didn't want that. That contradiction destroyed me from the inside out. Like a hero who regrets saving someone. And no one ever talks about that part, do they? The part where the good guy feels used, where the brother who should have said thank you disappears. Time went on. I tried to distract myself, got back to the gym, started cooking more, tried therapy, didn't last. Because every time I spoke it out loud, I felt more pathetic. How can someone feel so much for someone who didn't even have the decency to look back? I started walking the streets like I was carrying something invisible on my shoulders, like I'd returned from a war no one knew I fought. Friends asked how I was. I smiled, said I was getting better. They believed me, because no one saw the weight I carried, and part of me didn't want them to. Some nights, I lay awake just remembering how he looked before the surgery, the way he held my hand, how I believed it all meant something. I wanted it to mean something, but I was the only one carrying that meaning. I stopped calling, stopped wondering if he'd return. I built a routine around silence. The day I walked into work without limping, they cheered. "He's back. You're a warrior. Your brother must be so proud." And every compliment felt like a punch to the gut, because they didn't know the truth, and I wasn't ready to tell them. Not yet. I tried dating, met a few people, tried to open up, but I didn't know how to trust anymore, because if my own brother could vanish after I gave him a part of myself, how could I believe anyone else would stay? I began to think the problem was me, that maybe I expected too much, that maybe love really was supposed to be one-sided, that the one who loves more always loses. One night, I almost messaged him. Just one line. "You'll carry a piece of me forever, and I'll carry the pain of having given it to you." But I didn't send it, because he didn't deserve my words anymore, or my pain, and keeping it inside was the only power I had left. Then one day, I got a letter. No name, no return address. Inside, a single sentence. "Forgiveness begins when the pain gets tired." I don't know if it was from him or someone else trying to offer me peace, but at that moment I realized I didn't want forgiveness. I wanted distance and silence, because some people don't need to come back. They need to stay in the past, where they chose to remain. I kept living, but differently, slower, more careful, more distant. And every time someone asked about Daniel, I answered, "He's alive." And that was it. Because that's what he was. Alive, but gone from me. After Daniel walked out that day, I knew. I knew he would never return the way I hoped. Not as a brother, not as a man, and maybe not even as a clean memory. It's strange to say this, but when he disappeared again, it hurt less than before. Maybe because I was already used to the idea that he only appeared when he needed something, and vanished when guilt knocked at his door. But that doesn't mean it stopped hurting. The pain just changed shape. It became a quiet presence in the back of my mind, one that didn't scream, but never slept. I started living on autopilot. Wake up, eat, work, sleep, repeat. And in those rare, quiet moments, my thoughts always went back to him. Where was he? With who? Did he ever tell anyone what I'd done for him? Did he tell people I was the brother who saved his life? Or just someone he used to talk to? Sometimes I imagined what he said about me. Did he lie? Did he say it was just a medical procedure? That he was doing fine? And if someone asked, "Do you talk to your brother?" would he reply, "We talk sometimes," as if nothing happened, as if he didn't walk away with a part of me still inside him? No one knew the full story, because I never told it. All they knew was that I had done something noble, that I was generous, selfless, incredible. And I listened in silence, because telling the truth wouldn't change anything. It would only make me the bitter one, the ungrateful one, the one who couldn't let it go. So I smiled, went home, and laid in bed alone, with the scar, with the hollow, with his name still echoing in some part of me that scans couldn't find. I tried to move forward, tried to focus on my work, went out sometimes, met new people, but trust wasn't easy anymore, because if the person who shared my blood, the one I literally gave part of my body to, could disappear like I was nothing, why would I expect any stranger to stay? I started to believe that maybe the problem was me. Maybe I loved too hard, expected too much, gave too quickly, and in doing so, I left myself empty. There were nights I'd wake up with the echo of our last conversation in my head, him saying, "You're all I have." How ironic, because when he left, it was like I had nothing, not even myself. Weeks turned into months. He never reached out, not to say thank you, not to ask how I was, not to apologize. He just disappeared. Again. Eventually, I accepted it. Accepted that people don't change just because you sacrifice for them. That sometimes you give everything and they give nothing back. And that has to be enough, even if it breaks you. The world kept moving. People healed. Families laughed. Friends posted pictures, shared stories. And I walked around like a man carrying a secret nobody could see. A scar no one recognized. Because on the outside, I was fine. I looked healthy, strong. But inside, I was still in that hospital bed, still staring at the empty space beside me, still waiting for him to come back and say, "I'm sorry." But he never did. One morning, I opened my closet and saw the hospital bag still folded there, still sealed with the label, "Post-op, Michael." I sat on the floor, held it, and cried for the first time in months. Not because I missed him, but because I missed myself. The version of me that believed people would stay if you loved them enough. I stopped answering questions about him. People would ask, "How's your brother?" And I'd say, "He's alive." That was all I could say without lying. Because alive didn't mean present, didn't mean family, didn't mean brother. I didn't hate him anymore, because hate requires energy, attention, and I was too tired of holding up the version of myself he had shattered, too tired of hoping for a closure I knew would never come. So I chose silence. Not the kind that waits, the kind that moves on. It was almost a year later when he showed up again. No warning, no text, no phone call. Just rang my doorbell on a Thursday night. I almost didn't open it. The part of me that still believed he could change was small, almost dead. But I opened it. He looked thinner, quieter, grey even, like he was finally carrying the guilt he had been running from. "Can I come in?" "No." "Michael, say what you came to say right here." He took a deep breath, stared at the floor, and asked, "Do you hate me?" I said nothing. Because I hate myself. I stopped looking at him. The anger didn't come like it used to. Now, it was just exhaustion. I don't hate you, Daniel. I hate what you did. I hate that you made me carry all of this alone. I hate that you walked away with a part of me inside you and treated it like nothing. He lowered his head. I don't know how to deal with love. That sentence hit me in a strange way, because it was true. Daniel never knew how to deal with love, receiving it, returning it, holding on to it. He only knew how to exist and let people revolve around him until they collapsed. And I was the one who revolved the most, until I fell. He tried to explain, said he felt so small after what I did, that disappearing felt easier, that seeing me hurt made him feel ashamed, that he thought he'd ruin everything by staying close. But I knew, deep down, it was all just a prettier version of running away. Because real people face things. They say sorry, and they stay. He ran, again, just like always. But this time, I wasn't the one who needed to forgive him. I was the one who needed to be free. I looked at him and said, Daniel, I gave you a kidney, but you took something much bigger, the part of me that still believed in you. He cried, and this time, I didn't cry with him, because there was nothing left in me to spill, only dry earth. Are you still my brother? He asked. I took a breath. I'm your brother, but you stopped being mine. I closed the door, and he never came back. That's when gratitude died, the one I waited for, the one I silently begged for, the one I fantasized about in the form of a redemption story. It died because I stopped needing it. I didn't need him to thank me, or call me, or come back. I needed peace. And for the first time, I started to find it. Not because I forgave him, but because I buried the hope. Life after him wasn't exactly happy. It was real. No cinematic endings, no miraculous reunions, no letters asking for forgiveness or birthday messages. But it was enough. I learned that sometimes losing someone is also winning, because the silence they leave behind is lighter than the weight of their presence. I looked in the mirror. The scar was still there, thin, still visible, but it was no longer just a reminder of what I gave someone. It was a reminder of everything I stopped giving myself for years. I had always tried to save Daniel since we were kids, believing that if I loved him hard enough, he'd stay. If I cared enough, he'd change. If I gave enough, he'd see me. But he never saw me, because he never knew how to see anyone but himself. And I only saw myself clearly after he was gone. I started doing new things, went back to school, traveled alone, talked to strangers. Bit by bit, I opened myself to small connections that didn't require me to bleed in order to be loved. I stopped expecting others to give back what I gave, and only gave what I truly wanted to, without demand. And that's when I understood. His betrayal woke me up. It forced me to realize that love isn't about unconditional sacrifice. It's about presence, about choice, about staying. And he never chose me. Later, I heard he'd moved to another city, that he lived with someone now, that he worked at a tattoo studio. I felt nothing. No anger, no longing, no desire to reconnect. Just nothing. And that absence of pain was the greatest peace I could have hoped for. Today, I live with one kidney and two silences. His, that never said another word, and mine, that finally stopped screaming for anyone. The scar is still there. It'll always be. But now, it's just another part of me, like a story that once hurt, but taught me how to be whole again. If this story reached something inside you, don't leave it here. Subscribe for more true, haunting, and unforgettable stories that echo long after they end. Because sometimes what we survive says more than what we say. and we're here to give voice to what others keep silent.